In this lesson, we'll go ahead and finish up the sofa. Alright, so let's see what we have here. We have the first cushion that we did, and I've gone ahead and repeated that process on both of these other cushions. Now, this one we had duplicated from the polygons on the original, and this is just a cube that I built, and I just did the exact same procedure on this cube. So here you can see the divisions that I have in this cube, and this is for the back cushion. And then I've just gone in and smoothed it, gone ahead and added that same detail that we had on the rest of the cushions, and then added another smooth. Okay, so exact same procedure on this. So now what we want to do is go ahead and duplicate these across. So I'm going to select this cushion and go ahead and just shift drag this until it is kind of right next to it. Leave a little bit of space in there, and I'll make that a copy. Okay, so something like that. And then we want to do the same thing over here one more time. So go ahead and make that about the same distance. Okay, you can maybe pull that out a little bit more. Alright, and now this allows us to know exactly where the end of this couch will be, and we can come in and grab these vertices, and let's just pull these in a bit. And you want to make sure that your reference coordinate system is set to view or world. I'll just pull that in. So something like that. And if you want to make this a little bit thinner, you can always come in here and shape this a little bit. Maybe I want this armrest to be a little bit skinnier. Okay, same thing over here. And in this case, I don't want to pull that in. I want to pull, actually don't want to change this at all because that will change the cushion. So I'll go ahead and make that. Alright, so now we've got those, duplicated across. Let's go ahead and now duplicate this. But this back one of the things that I want to do to this that I might not want to do to the regular cushions is to add some kind of large scale shape changes to this. And so for this, I'm going to go ahead and add a deformer. And now this may be familiar to you as a lattice in something like Maya, but in here it's an FFD box with freeform deformation, and you've got 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, and then you've got box and cylinder that you can go in and actually change the resolution of those. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let's add a 4x4, okay, to the top of the stack. And now if I go in here, I can actually access these control points, and the idea with this is actually just make this look a little bit softer, more like a cushion. Okay, so you can maybe pull this up here. We can grab these in the middle, okay, and I'll just kind of deselect some of the ones back here, and maybe pull this out a little, and maybe pull it down. Okay, we can maybe pull this out slightly, and also maybe scale it out a little bit. So just the idea is just to add a little bit of shape. So maybe we want to bring this in slightly. Okay, maybe we want to kind of grab some of these and pull these down, and this is kind of large scale changes to the shape, not necessarily the kind of wrinkles and stuff that you want to sculpt into it. Maybe you want to make this a little bit wider down here on the bottom, and we might want to take this and just kind of rotate this and pull it back against the back that we've got here. Okay, take advantage of the fact that this is somebody's been sitting on here and been pushing it back against here. So if that's the case, we might want to actually, instead of pulling those out, we might want to pull those in a little bit. Maybe pull these corners out. And you really don't have to be that exact. When doing stuff like this, it actually, looks a little bit better if you're just kind of free with it and come in and make any sort of changes that you want to make. Okay, you want to be a little bit specific. You don't want to just come in and make it all wonky. You want to kind of have an idea of what it's supposed to look like. Maybe make it a little bit more saggy. Maybe bulge out a little bit more at the bottom, perhaps. Okay, so just give it a little bit of shape here. Maybe pull this down a little bit. Okay, just give it a little bit of shape. And we can go ahead and take this whole thing and go ahead and duplicate this over. So just shift, drag this over, pull that in there, make that a copy, do the same thing over here, and now we can customize these to fit in here. So maybe this one, I want to change things up a little bit and do that. This one, I want to change things up, so I'll go ahead and maybe bring that down and maybe bring that out. I want them to kind of be nice and tight on each other, so I'll kind of pull that over in that direction. Maybe pull this over so that it's up against the side here. Okay. Maybe that's kind of down a little bit. Maybe that's up. Just change things up a little bit so that they don't all look exactly the same. I can go ahead and select this guy, do the same thing here. Kind of come in and bring that whole thing over. Maybe this one, maybe this comes down a little bit. Okay. And maybe this one, take the whole top of this and maybe pull it back slightly and down, and maybe rotate this at an angle. Okay, so just try to make it look lived in. Okay, no matter how modern and sleek this couch is, the cushions and all the pieces of fabric are not going to be, perfect. They're going to have some irregularities, and that's kind of what you want to capture here. Make sure I turn that on. That's what you want to capture, and that'll come through and help your sofa look a little bit more realistic, even if it is kind of very modern there. I'm going to pull that back in. So just come in and mess around with the deformation. I'm probably not going to add too much large scale deformation like that on these guys. I'll probably do that with paint deformation. Okay, I want to go ahead and continue this by just duplicating over this guy. Okay, say OK to that, and then we'll select those control points, and let's just move this in slightly. And you can also add one right over here. So make that a copy. We'll rotate that. Let's go ahead and rotate that back. And we'll stick that against this side over here. Okay. And we'll raise that up so it's right on top there. And then we can tweak that FFD deformer there to fit that as well. Okay, so go ahead and maybe bring this out a little bit. Make sure you turn it on, that is. And go ahead and bring that out. And maybe this will come out a little bit. So just play around with the shapes that you want to get. Maybe this can come back in against there. You might want to go ahead and actually rotate these as well. So just play around with that. If I turn off edge faces, you can see the kind of effect that we're starting to get is kind of nice. So everything's kind of a little bit off, right? So the next thing that you want to do to kind of play with the look of this is to actually use paint deformation to come in and add some detail. So to do that, you need to have your mesh, you need to have an editable state on the top if you want to be able to utilize this. Otherwise, you can use the edit poly down here, but we're at a little bit too low of a res for it to look good. So I'm going to go ahead and add it on this turbo smooth. So to do this, I'm going to add another edit poly modifier on top. And with this activated, you can go down to the bottom, and it's usually the rollout on the very bottom, paint deformation. We've got the amount of push and pull value. Okay, so I'm going to set that down to something pretty low, something like ½ inch or so. Let's set our brush size way down to something like maybe 8 inches or so. And our brush strength, I'm going to dial that down to about half. And now what I want to do is choose either push, pull, or relax. So I'm going to go ahead and say a push, pull. And so this is going to allow me to just sculpt along here. So you can kind of see the effect happening here. And if it's too much sculpting is going on, then you can always dial down your brush size or your value there. Okay, so maybe my brush strength is a little bit too much, so maybe I'll go down to a 1/4 strength. Dial the brush size down even a little bit more. Okay, and just skim across here, just pulling this out. Okay, and you can kind of see how that looks here. If I turn off edged faces and just kind of pull this out. Now if it gets a little bit too drastic, you can always come in and relax it back down. Okay. You can do the same thing on these guys. Go ahead and turn this off. do the same thing up here on this guy if you want to. Go ahead and just add an edit poly up here. So go ahead and say edit poly, and then we'll push pull. We'll add maybe a 1/2 inch, dial our brush size down to about 8 inches or so, and take the brush strength down to 1/4 strength. And then we can come in and sculpt on here if we want to. Okay. You can see it a little bit better in here. Okay, if we want to maybe relax this front part, we can choose relax. Okay, come in and relax this. Maybe dial our strength up a little bit. Alright. You also have brush options you can open up if you want to change the kind of the profile of the brush and so forth. But we're just kind of using this to kind of rough these things up a little bit. So you can get as detailed as you want with some of this. I'm just going to very quickly go over this as we're kind of running short on time here. Okay, so that's what you want to do with a lot of this, is just come in and using an edit poly modifier, just kind of rough things up. And you can see that that looks just a little bit more realistic than this super clean cushions that we have here. And you can make it a little bit more subtle if you want to, kind of go back and relax that out. But just go ahead and add that, and I would add it not so much to the frame, but mainly to the cushions, and then even these back cushions a little bit more as well. All right, so we're almost done with the couch actually, so let's go ahead and in the next lesson quickly add some little legs to the couch. So we'll go ahead and do that next.